Thanks for your company. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have signed a memorandum of understanding, to set up a committee to monitor pollution caused by illegal mining. The two countries have also formed a joint commission to implement the ruling of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, EOCO, on the delimitation of the maritime boundary between the two nations. A number of MOUs were signed between the two nations as Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara's two-day visit to Ghana winds down. Now, Foreign Affairs Minister EOCO earlier spoke at the Flagstaff House.
The two leaders announced the establishment of a joint committee for the implementation of the EOCO's judgment and indicated that the composition of the committee would be decided later. The two presidents also agreed to meet at least once every year, alternating in each other's country to guide and promote the implementation of the common strategies policies. After 2 days of deliberations, the two countries will sign the following agreements: Strategic Partnership Agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana and the Government of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of the Republic of Ghana and the Government of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire for geological and mineral cooperation. Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of the Republic of Ghana and the Government of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire for industrial cooperation. And lastly, Memorandum of Understanding for the establishment of a joint technical experts subcommittee for the monitoring of pollution from the illegal mining activities in the Bia and Tano River basins shared between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire.
President Akufo-Addo addressed the media after signing the MOU.
Our two peoples demand it. We're neighbors, we're bounded by so many ties. And working together is the best guarantee that the various strengths that we have individually can be put together for the benefit of our two populations. I've been particularly lucky in my period as President of Ghana that I have on the Ivorian side a man of the stature and experience and quality of Alassane Ouattara. It has been a particular blessing for me as Ghanaian President that the Ivorian side should have such a leader. These 2 days have proved very fruitful, and I believe as the various agreements that have been worked out begin to play out in the public space, the Ghanaian people and the Ivorian people will see the necessity of this visit and its value to them. The delegation that came from Cote d'Ivoire speaks for itself in terms not just of the numbers, but of the significance of the ministers who came. I can say that on my part, virtually my entire government is here, and I suspect President Ouattara can say the same. And it is a measure of the importance that we attach to the relationship that these two groups of people have been assembled. They've done a tremendous amount of work, and I want to congratulate all the ministers involved on both sides and their leaders, the two ministers of Foreign Affairs, for an extremely productive engagement over these 2 days, which have been reduced into writing in the various memoranda that have been, and agreements that have been executed this morning. I think all of us understand one thing, and beyond the arrangements on paper and whatever technical understandings that there may be, if there is no will to make the words on paper live in the lives of people, they remain exactly that, words on paper. I'm very confident that in President Ouattara, I have a partner who's determined to translate the words we have found on paper into concrete actions to to the benefit of our two peoples. That political will, that determination that we move into an era of greater and greater intimacy is what will give meaning to the work that we have done to these last 2 days. It's obvious that if Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire remain in harmony and are determined to work together, the benefit will inure not just to our populations, but to the wider group of people in our West African region. We should and can be, and I believe that now we're making it clear to the world that we are determined to be the motor, the vehicles that make possible the greater cooperation and integration of the peoples of West Africa. That has to be our future. And today we are pointing to that future, a future of cooperation, a future that can allow us to go over artificial divisions like language and borders. On the Ghanaian side, there's still a lot of work to do to make sure that we are fully bilang, as they say. I want to use the occasion once again to say a very, very big welcome to all of you, and I hope that your stay in Accra is something that you will remember, that you came to Accra and had a really... So, Monsieur le Président, simplement encore de vous dire comment je suis élu. Je suis très honoré par votre présence ici à Accra et par cette forte délégation que vous avez amenée avec vous. Je pense que ça c'est la direction que nos deux pays doivent prendre. Direction d'amitié forte, de collaboration étroite, qui fait que le peuple ivoirien, le peuple ghanéen sera en avant pour la construction de notre communauté de la CEDEAO. Moi, je pense que si c'est ça qui va nous marquer notre époque en tant que leader de la Côte d'Ivoire, leader du Ghana, ce sera une bonne chose. Alors encore.
Away from Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire relations, the Economic and Organized Crime Office says it has arrested 3 Ghanaians in connection to large-scale romance fraud and the resultant trade-based money laundering activity. At least £5 million have been stolen from 16 Britons by a syndicate EOCO says is widely networked and complex. Proceeds of the scam have already been transferred into banks in Ghana. Joy News' editor Fred Smith just returned from that briefing held by EOCO a while ago, but we have him on the line with us. Hello, Fred.
Yes, hello, Bennett.
Great. Can you tell us the scope of this investigation, Fred?
Well, indeed, it's an operation that involved the EOCO, BNI, the police, national security, and they teamed up with their partners, the National Crime Agency in the United Kingdom, to investigate this. This investigation has been going on for one whole year. And this morning, there was a simultaneous swoop in Accra and in the United Kingdom. EOCO did not indicate where, it may be London, but they've arrested a Ghanaian, Opoku Ajman, in the UK. In Ghana, they've arrested 2 persons, and they are suspected to be linked to it. In fact, EOCO says they have more than enough evidence to link them, and the amount involved is £5 million from 16 victims, one of whom has already committed suicide.
Well, the term romance fraud may be new to a lot of Ghanaians. What does it involve exactly?
Well, EOCO explains that these individuals will get someone who is deemed to be wealthy to believe that they are in love with them. So a lot of these persons will be in Ghana and be communicating with them maybe through the internet and get their emotions. Let's get them to believe that they are in love with them. And then use that to exploit them. Sometimes they ask them for huge sums of money, and they also send them down in the hope of meeting them in the future. It ends up that these people, in fact, sometimes men have contacted other men in the UK and pretending to be women in Ghana. And so they end up not finding the love that they've been pursuing, for which they would have sent those monies down to Ghana. And EOCO says some of the 5 million in this particular case have already been sent to Ghana through Ghanaian banks, and they've been cashed by those who it was intended for.
Well, interesting. But Fred, is EOCO closing investigations with these arrests?
Not at all. They're saying that it's a very large and complex network, and they're going after anyone who may be part of this scam.
Thank you very much, Fred Smith, for those updates, even as EOCO has disclosed that they've arrested 3 Ghanaians in relation to romance fraud or romance scam. Now, away from that, 1 in every 4 Ghanaians is considered poor. The Upper East region is one of the poorest in Ghana, with women in that area being the worst affected. As the world marks International Day for Eradication of Poverty today, October 17, Joy News' Upper East correspondent Albert Sori tells the story of 65-year-old Atipoka Ayo, a widow who lost her husband and 6 children over 10 years ago, accused of witchcraft and left alone to her fate. She now fends for herself and 2 of her nieces from the meager returns of her petty trades and aid from a local women empowerment organization.
For 65-year-old Atipoka Ayo, every single day comes with a battle to survive. She looks too active for someone her age, but this is who she must be if she wants to put food on the table. Atipoka lives in this old madhouse at Anatim in the outskirts of Bolgatanga here in the Upper East region. She lost her husband more than 10 years ago. Before then, her 6 children had died before their 10th birthday.
My first 2 children died shortly after birth. The 3rd child died in my womb before he was taken out. After that, I had twins, a boy and a girl. The girl later died, leaving behind the boy who became a shepherd and looked after his father's sheep. There is a dam not too far away from here. One day, while herding the sheep, the boy went for a swim in the dam and drowned in the process. I had another child after that, but that one too died while he was still crawling.
She recalls that despite the sorrows, she and her husband were generally happy. They worked together on their farms to fend for themselves, and she never had to worry about poverty or hunger. Things, however, took a turn for the worst after Atipoka's husband also died, and her brother-in-law accused her of using witchcraft to kill her children and husband.
My brother-in-law would sometimes call me a cannibal who ate up my entire family spiritually. He would go on to tell me to leave this house because he was not going to allow me to kill him as well. Anytime he did this, I would put my hands on my head and wail and wail. Then he would make mockery of me. He did this for a long time, and one day he disappeared from this house. For 2 years now, we have not seen him. His children live here with me.
With no one to help her, Atipoka now engages in different kinds of petty trades to fend for herself and her 2 nieces who live with her. She says she goes from shea nut processing to weaving of straw baskets and selling firewood, all to earn some income. But the returns from these trades are often a pocket change, just about enough for the next 1 or 2 meals.
From these petty trades, I manage to buy food for us. As for clothing, I don't even talk about it. I have one skirt and a blouse, which I have used for the past 5 years, and I have no cloth to wrap myself with. So just imagine that, using the same clothes for 5 years. Sometimes, I don't even want to go to church because I feel like an outcast among the congregation. But the pastor has spoken to me against having such thoughts, so I keep going to church each time in these same clothes.
The Widows and Orphans Movement, a women empowerment organization, has been helping Atipoka and many other women in similar situations. They helped Atipoka to learn a trade in basket weaving and give her some aid once a while. Atipoka tells me, but for the intervention of the Widows and Orphans Movement, she would have been homeless or even dead, because this house, which she lives in now, once got ripped apart by a storm and she was left with no roof over her head.
All my rooms were destroyed. In those days, anytime it threatened to rain, I'd run to that nearby house for shelter. It continued like that until a friend introduced me to the madam at the Widows and Orphans Movement. Then she sent people to come and fix 2 rooms for me.
Atipoka says she would appreciate help if it comes, but for her, asking for more help will amount to pushing her luck, because her situation before now was far worse off. She puts the amount of money she and her nieces live on at an estimated 4 Ghana cedis a day. She is unaware of any government interventions for people like her. Nonetheless, she has resolved to be content with her current financial situation. For her, she must crawl her way to survival, one step at a time, every single day. Reporting for Joy News, Albert Sori, Anatim, Bolgatanga.
As Ghana joins the world to mark the 25th anniversary of the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, Joy News' Max Tulaku has been finding out from residents in Asin Fosu in the central region what they are doing in their own way to eradicate poverty.
Today, we are here in Asin Fosu to gauge, the level of poverty situation here, even if there is any. Find out from people exactly what their own circumstances, are. So joining me here, I have one man who is here ready doing business. As you can see from the background, people have started actually setting up already. They're setting up for business, their shoes, their socks, everything they'll be selling today are ready. Here, I also have another student here with me. He's just around 24, 25 years, so just around the same period when the day was actually declared. They're here with me so we can find out from them what it is like living here in Asin Fosu, what circumstances are like in terms of finances, in terms of poverty, and what they are doing in their own small way to eradicate completely poverty. Let me start off with you, Nana Efroseng. Chumesi Juma Bena well.
Me patro metonton enema ewa niema te se mpaboa socks no.
Well, his name is Chumesi. He sells shoes and socks and other things here at Asin Fosu. Chumesi pese misao utibie mu wo hwa tibiet ewo we Asin Fosu ha na ete sen.
Oh, nyame adaroma enye ade a eye boni bisa na eye too bad. Nyame si anka no kure. Niema enhyeda enkoye Asin Fosu ade enso minim se nyame adaroma kakrakra
zo hwe camera no
kakrakra niema ebekoyie. Say I say near Shassi and Yamabi to sini kakra waha, and some say Yamia Domino and Sanya Abain Kakra, Yamabikui.
Okay, well, he says things are not, too good it's not bad also. So you can say it's a bit, midway, like 50-50 kind of, situation. He says that he's hoping that with a change of government, things, will become, better here in Asimfusu. And you partner said, "Nyama nshedangko, nyama bem potinsana nshedangko yi."
Me share nyama enkoya. Ebi te say no hwe adeto no mu a adeto no enkoso yie na emom said ye aban we aba wahye ye no ye nim se niam besesa say ye ne edi dwan eye ye nya bosia kakra free banks ana say ye nya bibi te say mass lock a kakra ye betimi de atre ye dwan mu ama ye dwan no so akoso ne etimi so no enya bi aboa ye ma.
Well, he's talking about the fact that very important. I mean, they'll be very excited if they are able to access some loans from microfinance institution. He mentions Maslock and then banks to actually support their businesses. He's saying that with the change in government, he's hopeful that will be forthcoming, and they'll be able to access loans from Maslock and from other microfinance companies and then banks to be able to expand their businesses, so they'll be able to enjoy the fruits of that. Let me find out from this gentleman here. So what's your name?
My name is Hagan.
Steve Hagan. Simon Hagan.
Yeah.
You are a student at Obriyobua Senior High School. You are just, you were born just around the time that International Day for the Eradication of Poverty was declared. Tell me your own circumstance. I mean, you're in school with your colleagues. Tell me about your circumstance. Maybe you want to paint a picture for us. What is it like for them, and what is life like for them, back on campus?
Oh, life was so difficult because...
Can you look into the camera for me?
Life was so difficult. Life is not all that difficult, but because of the situations in the world is going, because most of my classmates, we are doing student registration right now. Most of them have paid, but others, because of life challenges, they couldn't.
We found out from another gentleman who just joined us.
Maxwell Agbagbade speaking to some residents of Asimfusu. Now, if you have the opportunity to regularly satisfy your appetite, sleep in a spacious aired room all alone and breathe good air around you, you should count yourself lucky. The case of residents of Tulaku in Ashaman is the reverse. Well, as the world marks International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, John News' MFA Atiamwa Eli spends time chatting with two key residents and reports that until their call for a decent accommodation, good food and provision of basic social amenities is heeded, they'll continue to wallow in poverty.
Tulaku is the gateway to Ashaman. Wherever you come from Accra, from Tema, from wherever you come, you pass through Tulaku. And Tulaku faces the ceremonial motorway. He said, and I saw a disgrace to Ashama and the landowners.
We have got people who are ready to do petty trading. So if these loans are given to them for a little interest, I think they will be able to cope with the situation.
We'll be happy, we'll be glad if authorities or the government in power now will come to our aid and make a policy that no, Tulaku is near the Tamamoto way. The area must be demarcated and developed. We shall be happy, very, very happy.
Answering the call of October 17 to end poverty, a pathway to a peaceful and inclusive societies. This is the theme on which this year's International Day for the Eradication of Poverty is being marked.
It's very difficult, but I am only managing. By the grace of God, I'm managing. I thank God my boy is in his last form. I've paid his school fees. I've paid his WASI registration money and what have you. So I'm now a bit okay, but I'm left with the daily aspect of a parent. When school is on in session, then I become hot.
Especially like they're on vacation.
Then I'm on pension now. That is what is adjusting me to manage my family. Otherwise, I don't know what I will do. I'm an industrial mechanic, but I have not gone to practice what I learned. But I'm now stick to my father's school for all these years.
63-year-old Emmanuel Zonyra has lived in Tulaku all his life. He is the owner and proprietor of the Modern Age Institute, formerly the National Primary School at Tulaku, a suburb of Ashaiman in Accra. This is the school most children in this community receive early childhood education. For Mr. Zonyra, life in Tulaku is certainly not normal.
Nothing is being done about our situation here. Our main problem is demarcation, and then they give us the go-ahead to put up permanent structures, and then we will live as normal human beings. Sanitation, what have you? No.
Homes, largely made of wooden structures, are the shelters of residents of Tulaku. The men in the slum are best described as hustlers, while their women engage in tabletop and mini-shop trading. The youth, both boys and girls, are often on the streets, hawking all manner of items, including sachet water.
Some deal in Fula and Nono. Some sell guru. Only few go out to work somewhere. Some few go to the harbor, not as a worker, but to go and walk around to see whether they can get some job. There are few wolves. Yeah. Some rare animals, not outside, but in the house. Some sleep with the animals in the house. Yeah, I must be frank, but recently the assembly is trying to get them in a confined place near the pylons.
Assemblyman for the area, Yakubu Amadu, says those perceived as well-to-do in the community are the individuals who operate their private shops and public places of convenience.
Some are selling provisions to earn a living. Some have put up toilet facilities and they are taking care of it. Some too are owning a shower, and then they have got standpipe where people come to patronize. I think those are the people I think are better off in terms of livelihood.
Life in Tulaku is survival for the fittest. Access to decent accommodation, basic social amenities, and good sanitation facilities has become their major headache.
Most of them are not educated. Most of them too migrate from their villages and then they find themselves here in the area. You'll be surprised, a single room, more than 10 people occupy a single room for the night. They are crowded in the room.
Those people who have got families, some have been laid off from work and now they are jobless. They don't know what to do to earn a living. Their wives too don't work. They are already housewives and they need financial support. But because he's no more working, he's with the husband, because the husband is no more working and the wife too is already a housewife, there's nothing to live on.
We have water distributed all around, but it's difficult to tap water into our homes. I recently applied for water to come to my house. The estimate they gave me was almost 10 million or 1,000. A poor resident in Tulaku, where am I going to get that money to draw clean water to my house?
As the world marks the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, communities such as Tulaku can only become inclusive After their call for a decent, permanent place of abode, better economic conditions and sanitation challenges, among others, are heeded too. My name is Emefa Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News, Accra.
Away from the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, prices of major staples like maize are likely to go up this year following the devastation caused by the fall armyworm invasion. What does this mean for food security and malnutrition? In our Joy News Agenda series this week, looking at food security, my colleague Justice Beidou travelled to the northern regional town of Bimbilla, a major food growing area, to find out.
In this land, there is uncertainty. This time of the year should be the major harvest season, and yet there is very little to take home. Wumbe Al-Hassan has spent nearly 2,000 cedis cultivating this 10-acre farm over the last 6 months. Now all the days of hard work has been brought down by the fall armyworms.
Life is not normal again. There is hunger looming. How are we going to feed ourselves? How are we going to feed our families?
Like Wumbe, hundreds, possibly thousands of farmers share similar stories of loss and pain. Since March this year, the pests have invaded nearly 120,000 hectares of farmland. Government pledged a fight back with its pesticide control program. That intervention, it seems, failed to trickle down to the people who needed it the most.
Extension officers here are woefully inadequate. One officer will be taking, let's say, 20, 25 communities. He cannot pass the information.
Malnutrition resulting from a lack of food is already causing enough havoc. It is responsible for up to 1/3 of all childhood deaths in Ghana now. 1 in every 5 children is now stunted. This part of Ghana, already one of the country's poorest, is also the most affected. It is the reason why any further shortage in food resulting from this invasion could be grave. People in Bimbilla, like many other farming communities, worry. But the impact of this year's armyworm invasion will be felt in places far from here. Inside the Bimbilla market, today is market day. This is one of the biggest food markets in the northern region. It is from here that foodstuffs like maize are sent to bigger cities like Accra and Kumasi. But this year, it seems it's not going to be business as usual. Inside, I meet Fauzia Zainabu, who retails maize from here for sale in markets in Accra.
Last year, we were buying a bowl of maize for 2 cedis. This year, it's 3 cedis, and it's even early days yet. There will be shortage. So in Accra, the price can go up to about 7 cedis.
Researchers say the worms could be even more destructive in the next farming season. It is the reason why an effective response should be now rather than later. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Bimbilla.
Now, children who lost their parents in persistent clashes between natives and nomadic herdsmen at Agogo have begun receiving financial support. The gesture is under a special fund set up by Managing Director of Asedu Royal Waste Management, Edward Asedu. It follows a Joy News hotline documentary, Violent Shepherds, which recounts the murder of 50 local farmers in Agogo in the last 15 years. Ohiming Teria, who brought us that report, has more.
A third-year nursing student of Secondary Nursing Training College is the first beneficiary with an initial 3,000 Ghana cedis to pay her fees.
I Sometimes I ask myself, if my father was alive, this struggle, I will not struggle to pay my school fees and a lot of things. So I used to cry when I remembered him.
Mr. Edward Asadu presented a check for the amount to Faustina Awua Ampon at a short ceremony at Love FM premises in Kumasi. 20 others are earmarked to have their turn in due course. Mr. Asadu is setting aside 20,000 Ghana cedis every year to finance education of affected children. Miss Awua Ampon, who featured in the Violent Sherpas documentary, is excited at the gesture.
It was like very difficult because my father was dead, so I was struggling to pay my school fees. Sometimes they used to start me from the exams hall just because I was not able to pay my school fees. But now I'll be able to pay because the company will help me to pay my school fees very well. So my education will improve and grow.
Faustina's mother, Yanyan Techua, struggled to find her words with the feeling the gesture has relieved her of the burden in paying school fees.
It has relieved me of the burden of contracting loans to pay her school fees. I am still servicing loans I took from 2 different sources. Her school fees is not an issue now. May the good Lord bless him.
Mr. Asadu promises more support for the needy in society.
We promise, and always, and when you promise, we make sure that we will do it. As Asadu Royal Waste, part of our social responsibility, we need to do this to help those who are in need. That is what we have taken to ourselves, that we will help those who are in need. It's not only Asante Achimwa or only this. It's not the first time that we are doing. We used to do it always. We are trying to give it to those who qualify or who is in need for it. So we have started it. So we will continue to do. It remains some people that we will call you in for you to capture also.
From Kumasi for Joy News, Ohimi Teria reporting.
Thank you so much for staying here on Joy News today. That'll be all for this edition. We are very interactive as well. You can follow us on social media on Facebook and Twitter. Our name is Joy News on TV. My name is Benis Abubedu. Do enjoy the rest of your day.